Chapter 3 of You Are Welcome Here. Recognize what is in your sight, and that which is hidden from you will become plain to you. For there is nothing hidden which will not become manifest. Gospel of Thomas, saying 5. In a maze of deception, you also need to be able to unlearn and recognize you have been fooled. This is an emotional skill, as it means dealing with a hurt ego and the loss of the feeling of knowing. Martin Geddes, I. To the one who has begun to question. Perhaps you have noticed that the explanations no longer satisfy. The official story, once accepted without examination, now shows cracks you cannot unsee. You have begun to wonder what else might be different from what you were told. Or perhaps you have gone further. You have tumbled down research rabbit holes at 2 a.m, following threads that lead to other threads, building elaborate architectures of suspicion. The world looks different now. More sinister, more corrupt, more layered with hidden meaning than you ever imagined. And yet something troubles you. The certainty you once sought in conventional explanations, you now seek in unconventional ones. The cage has merely changed shape. Or perhaps you stand somewhere between these positions, uncertain what to believe, suspicious of both mainstream narratives and their alternatives, longing for solid ground that seems to recede with every step. Wherever you stand, you are welcome here. This chapter will not tell you what to think. It will not validate paranoid fantasies, nor will it dismiss legitimate concerns about hidden power. What it offers instead is a framework for discernment, for navigating a world where some things really are concealed, while remaining grounded enough not to lose yourself in the labyrinth. 2. The hidden and the revealed, an ancient paradox. The Gospel of Thomas opens with a striking declaration. These are the hidden sayings that the living Jesus spoke. From its very first words, this text announces that knowledge exists in layers, some accessible to ordinary perception, others requiring a different kind of seeing. The promise follows immediately. What is hidden will become manifest. But to whom, and under what conditions? This question. The relationship between hidden and revealed knowledge runs through every spiritual tradition we have examined. In the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu speaks of the way that cannot be named, the virtue that cannot be grasped through striving. In the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus repeatedly points to a kingdom spread out upon the earth that humans do not see. Alan Watts spent a lifetime explaining how Maya, the veil of illusion, operates not through supernatural deception, but through ordinary habits of perception. Yet there is another dimension to hidden knowledge that we must now consider, one less mystical and more mundane, yet no less consequential for the spiritual seeker. This is the realm of deliberately concealed information, knowledge that is hidden not by the limitations of human consciousness, but by the choices of those who possess it. Here we enter territory that many spiritual teachings avoid. It is easier to speak of cosmic mysteries than political ones, safer to contemplate the ineffable than to question the narratives that shape our daily lives. Yet if we are serious about awakening, about seeing clearly what is before our eyes, we cannot remain naive about the world in which we practice. You are welcome here, even with your uncomfortable questions. 3. Deep politics, an academic framework. In 1993, Peter Dale Scott, a former Canadian diplomat and professor emeritus of English at the University of California, Berkeley, published a book with a provocative title, Deep Politics and the Death of JFK. Scott, who had already authored several works on covert operations and the global drug trade, was seeking a language to describe phenomena that defied ordinary political analysis without descending into what he saw as the dismissive category of conspiracy theory. The term he coined was deep politics, a phrase intended to describe the hidden realities underlying the small proportion of political matters that ever become public knowledge. Scott's definition is precise. Deep politics refers to all those political practices and arrangements, deliberate or not, which are usually repressed rather than acknowledged. What distinguishes Scott's approach from less rigorous analyses is his insistence on documentary evidence, his acknowledgement of complexity and uncertainty, and his recognition that deep political systems often operate without central coordination. As he writes, "My notion of deep politics posits that in every culture and society there are facts which tend to be suppressed collectively because of the social and psychological costs of not doing so. This is not paranoid conspiracy thinking. It is the recognition that power operates through channels both visible and invisible, and that understanding the world requires attending to both. Daniel Ellsberg, the Pentagon Papers whistleblower, wrote of Scott's work that it makes most academic and journalistic explanations of our past and current interventions read like government propaganda written for children. What does this have to do with spirituality? Everything. If your spiritual practice is to be more than escapism, if it is to help you see clearly and live wisely, it must include the capacity to discern truth in a world where truth is not always freely offered. IV. The evidence of history, conspiracies that were real. Before we can speak meaningfully about hidden knowledge, we must establish a simple but crucial fact. Conspiracies exist, not as fevered imaginings of disturbed minds, but as documented historical realities confirmed by congressional investigations, declassified documents, and official acknowledgments. Consider what we know. COINTELPRO, the FBI's counterintelligence program, systematically surveilled, infiltrated, and disrupted domestic political organizations from 1956 to 1971. Targets included civil rights leaders, anti-war activists, feminist organizations, and the American Indian movement. This was not speculation. It was exposed when activists broke into an FBI field office in 1971 and obtained internal documents. A Senate investigation later confirmed that 85% of COINTELPRO resources were devoted to marginalizing, infiltrating, and disrupting groups exercising their constitutional rights. MKUltra was a CIA program conducting extensive experiments on mind control using LSD and other substances, often on unwitting subjects including hospital patients, prisoners, and random citizens, from 1953 to 1973. When the program was threatened with exposure, CIA Director Richard Helms ordered all MKUltra documents destroyed. Only a bureaucratic accident, some files misfiled in the wrong cabinet, allowed investigators to piece together what had occurred. The Tuskegee syphilis study ran for 40 years, during which the U.S. Public Health Service allowed hundreds of black men with syphilis to go untreated, even after penicillin became the standard cure, simply to observe the disease's progression. The program was exposed only through journalistic investigation in 1972. Operation Northwoods, documented in declassified papers, revealed that in 1962 the Joint Chiefs of Staff proposed staging terrorist attacks on American soil and blaming them on Cuba to justify an invasion. The plan was formally presented to the Kennedy administration. It was rejected, but it was proposed. These are not speculative theories. They are matters of public record. Their existence proves something that ought to be obvious. Powerful institutions are capable of acting in secret, deceiving the public, and concealing their activities for decades. The spiritual significance is this. If you accept official narratives without discernment, you are practicing willful ignorance, not awakening. You are welcome here, even with eyes that have seen uncomfortable truths. The trap of total explanation. And yet, here we must tread carefully. The existence of real conspiracies does not validate every theory about hidden machinations. The challenge is developing what we might call an epistemology of discernment, a way of evaluating claims about hidden knowledge that avoids both naive credulity and paranoid pattern matching. I have watched people I respect disappear into explanatory systems that claim to reveal everything. The appeal is understandable. Once you discover that some of what you believed was false, the ground shifts beneath you. The temptation is to find new ground, a complete alternative framework that explains not only the specific deception you uncovered, but everything else as well. William Cooper's Behold a Pale Horse represents one trajectory. A former U.S. Naval Intelligence Briefing team member, Cooper wove together genuine concerns about government secrecy with increasingly elaborate claims. His book became enormously influential in certain circles, and Cooper himself was killed in a confrontation with sheriff's deputies in 2001, by which point his worldview had become increasingly all-encompassing. Robert David Steele offers a different case study. A former CIA case officer who became a pioneer in open-source intelligence, Steele wrote respected handbooks on intelligence gathering for NATO and the Defense Intelligence Agency. He advocated powerfully for transparency. Yet in his later years, he promoted increasingly extreme claims that alienated many who had valued his earlier work. He died of COVID-19 in 2021 after leading an anti-vaccination tour. What lessons do these trajectories offer? Perhaps this. The capacity to question official narratives is valuable and necessary, but it must be balanced by rigorous standards of evidence and a willingness to accept uncertainty. The desire for a complete explanation, a grand unified theory of everything wrong with the world, can become its own form of delusion. Martin Geddes, the British telecommunications expert, touches on something essential. In a maze of deception, you also need to be able to unlearn and recognize you have been fooled. This is an emotional skill, as it means dealing with a hurt ego and the loss of the feeling of knowing. Read that again. The ability to unlearn is as important as the ability to learn. And it is an emotional skill, not merely an intellectual one. Your ego is invested in what you believe you know. To admit you are wrong, whether about mainstream narratives or alternative ones, requires a kind of dying. VI, Maya Revisited. Illusion in political and spiritual contexts. Alan Watts spent much of his career explaining the Hindu concept of Maya, typically translated as illusion, in ways that resonate deeply with our present inquiry. Crucially, Maya does not mean that the world is unreal in some simplistic sense. Rather, it points to the way our conventional modes of perception create a filtered, partial, and often distorted picture of reality. The world is an illusion, a dream. It only appears to be real to the person who is unaware that it is a dream. This is not an invitation to dismiss the world as meaningless, but a call to recognize the constructed nature of your ordinary perception. In political terms, Maya operates through what Walter Lippmann called the manufacture of consent, the systematic shaping of public perception through controlled information. The same mechanisms that hide your true nature from yourself, habit, assumption, the desire for certainty, the fear of cognitive dissonance, also make you susceptible to manipulation by those who understand these dynamics. Yet Watts would remind us that seeing through illusion is not the same as becoming bitter or cynical. The one who awakens from Maya does not become suspicious of everything, but rather develops what Rob Bresney called cagey optimism, the ability to engage reality without either naive trust or defensive hostility. You are welcome here, learning to see through veils without losing your heart. 7. The Gospel of Thomas and the Knowledge That Saves. The Gospel of Thomas contains a remarkable saying 70, that reframes our entire inquiry. If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. This points to a different relationship with hidden knowledge than we typically imagine. The most crucial hidden knowledge, Thomas suggests, is not external, not the secrets of powerful institutions, but internal. What is hidden within you, awaiting recognition and expression, is what ultimately matters. This does not render political awareness irrelevant. Rather, it reframes it. External discernment, the ability to see through manufactured narratives, and internal discernment, the ability to recognize your own nature, are not separate capacities, but aspects of a single awakening. The person who is easily deceived about their own motivations will be easily deceived about the world. Saying 5 puts it directly. Recognize what is in your sight, and that which is hidden from you will become plain to you. The practice is not to seek out secrets, but to develop the capacity to see what is already present. The hidden becomes manifest not through investigation alone, but through the cultivation of clear perception. 8. The post-pandemic reckoning. The years following 2020 brought a global reckoning with questions of hidden knowledge. The pandemic disrupted ordinary life so thoroughly that many began questioning narratives they had previously accepted without examination. Some of this questioning was valuable and necessary. Some led into increasingly elaborate belief systems that served more as psychological refuges than accurate maps of reality. This period revealed something important. The desire for hidden knowledge can itself become a trap. When official narratives prove unreliable, the temptation is to embrace counter-narratives with equal or greater certainty. But substituting one dogma for another is not awakening. It is simply changing prisons. The genuine spiritual response to discovering that you have been deceived is not to become paranoid about everything, but to develop greater discernment about everything. This means holding all claims, official and unofficial alike, with appropriate tentativeness. It means seeking evidence rather than confirmation. It means being willing to update your views when evidence warrants. It also means recognizing that not all hidden knowledge is equally important. The deep politics of institutional power is worth understanding, but it is not the deepest knowledge. What the Gospel of Thomas calls the hidden sayings, the teachings about your true nature and relationship to reality, remains more fundamental than any political revelation. You are welcome here, still finding your way through the confusion. 9. Conspiracy realism, a middle path. The phrase conspiracy theory carries heavy baggage. Its use often functions less as description than as dismissal. a way of declaring certain topics off limits to serious inquiry. This does not mean the term is always inappropriate. Some theories about hidden machinations are indeed poorly supported, internally inconsistent, or motivated more by psychological needs than by evidence. What we need is what might be called conspiracy realism, an acknowledgement that conspiracies, coordinated actions concealed from the public, are a normal feature of political life, combined with rigorous standards for evaluating specific claims. This means accepting uncertainty. You may never know the full truth about many historical events. The absence of definitive evidence is not itself evidence of anything. This means distinguishing levels of evidence. Documented facts, credible testimony, circumstantial evidence, and speculation exist on a continuum. Responsible analysis treats them accordingly. This means recognizing psychological dynamics, your desire for coherent narratives, your discomfort with randomness, your tendency to see patterns even in noise. All of these can lead you astray. This means maintaining proportionality. Even where deception exists, its scope may be less than imagined. Incompetence often explains as much as conscious conspiracy, and this means keeping the ultimate goal in view. The point of discernment is not to accumulate secret knowledge, but to see clearly enough to live wisely. X. Awakening in a world of shadows. How do we integrate these insights with the spiritual teachings that form the core of this book? The answer lies in understanding discernment as a unified capacity that operates across domains. The one who sees through the illusion of a separate self is the same one who can see through manufactured narratives. The clarity that recognizes the constructed nature of ordinary perception is the same clarity that recognizes the constructed nature of public opinion. The courage to question your deepest assumptions about who you are prepares you for the courage to question your assumptions about how the world works. This does not mean becoming a conspiracy theorist in the pejorative sense. It means becoming genuinely awake, not in some purely interior sense that leaves you naive about external realities, but in a comprehensive way that brings clear seeing to all domains of experience. The Gospel of Thomas promises that what is hidden will become manifest. This is true internally. Your buried fears, desires, and capacities will eventually surface. It is also true externally. Institutional deceptions, however carefully maintained, tend to emerge eventually. Time reveals. But waiting for time is not the only option. Through the cultivation of discernment, through meditation, self-inquiry, careful attention to evidence, and willingness to question, you can accelerate this unveiling. You can learn to see what is hidden while it is still hidden. You can develop what the yogic traditions call viveka, the capacity to distinguish the real from the apparent, the true from the false, the essential from the superficial. 11. Practical wisdom for the seeker. What practical guidance emerges from these reflections? Cultivate interior discernment first. Know yourself, your biases, your fears, your desires for certainty. The one who is clear about their own psychological dynamics will be better equipped to evaluate external claims. Question all authorities, including alternative ones. The mainstream can mislead, so can alternative sources. Institutions can deceive, so can those who oppose them. Seek evidence, not confirmation. Look for information that challenges your views, not just supports them. Maintain humility about what you know. The phrase, "I don't know," is a sign of wisdom, not weakness. Keep proportionality in view. Not every hidden influence is equally important. Focus on what genuinely matters for living well. Don't let discernment become obsession. The goal is clear, seeing in service of wise living, not accumulation of secret knowledge as an end in itself. Remember the ultimate hidden knowledge. What the Gospel of Thomas calls the hidden sayings, the teachings about your true nature, remains more important than any political revelation. 12. The light that illuminates. Saying 24 of the Gospel of Thomas presents an image that captures the essence of everything we have explored. His disciples said to him, "Show us the place where you are, for it is necessary for us to seek it." He said to them, "Let one who has ears hear. There is light within a person of light, and it lights up the whole world. If it does not shine, it is dark." The light that illuminates hidden knowledge is not external, not a flashlight shown into dark corners by heroic investigators. It is internal, the awakening of clarity within the seeker. This light, when it shines, hidden knowledge and the epistemology